Welcome to episode numero 2 of the Forest Forum. And Nketiah is perfect for Forest, apparently. Let's get into it. I just did that to wind Brucey up. Nketiah. Happy? Happy? Chat, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Forest Forum. For those of you new to this series, this will be with a mixed panel every week, and they will each get up to 5 minutes to talk about their topic. Coming up tonight, we've got Lemmy telling us why Nketiah is perfect for Forest. We've got Ant, and I have no idea what he's going to do, but it's just Ryan Yates. That's all I can tell you guys. It is. And then we've got Rob telling everyone to calm down, calm down. There's something up with Nuno. Once they've each had their 5 minutes, we'll then open it up to the panel. We'll open it up to your comments. There'll be a bit of cross-examination, should we say, between the panelists. And get your bets on now. Will and interrupt in those 5 minutes. Well, yeah, while you're in the chat, do you think he can keep his mouth shut for a whole 600 seconds? Is that 5 minutes? No, 300 seconds. 300. Anyway, get those likes up, guys. Boys, how are you doing?
Yeah,
Good.
You're allowed to speak on that bit. You can talk when I say hi. We haven't started the official 5 minutes stuff, so feel free to say hi, chat, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, you're good?
Yes.
Yep, great.
Good to be back.
Yeah? It's a little, I gotta start something that's a little sad, right? Anthony, with that poll, you actually went and tweeted asking your millions of fans to vote you up to the top spot. So, guys in the chat, I'm going to leave this poll open for 2 minutes. Who do you want first? Lemmy's going to be talking about Nketiah. Ant's going to be talking about Yates. And Rob's going to be talking about Nuno. Vote for who you want to start first. Ant is currently, let's just say he's done a bit of a USA 2000 election here, and he's got himself to 40% of the vote. So as things stand, he's going first. Lemmy's on 31 and Rob's on 30. I'll give you 2 minutes to sort that out. But yeah, and isn't that a little like overkill to do that?
Sometimes you have to use, social media to appeal to the people so that they know. And with my massive social media following, I guess it was kind of inevitable.
All right, let's just say some quick hellos to Vic. Thank you so much for the 22 months. You absolute legend, Vic. Coming up to that 2-year mark. Another one just round the corner as well is Sherlock Martin Holmes with the 21 months. And Daniel with the 22 months. You're coming up to 2 years, man. I swear your one comes up every single episode, man. Are you hacking the system or something? It feels that way. Okay, let's jump into the show. Have you got your Yates calendar yet? And Jack wants to know over on Twitter. I'm scared to unleash, and I don't know what it's gonna be like. Good to see you, Hussein. Hope you're well. Is Nketiah done? Not yet. There's still hope. Still hope. Don't forget to respect the leagues. That really pissed that Charlie dude off yesterday, man. He did. It's true though. I stand by what I said. Even David, good to see you. And hello to everyone else in the chat. Okay, the polls have got close, but in third place right now is Rob with 30% of the vote. In second place with 32% of the vote is Lemmy. And in first place, I don't know how much I believe the engineering that's gone on here with 38% of the vote is Ant. Nikki with the 1 year and 1 month. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So I guess we got to start with what the people want. And that is going to be Ant on the wrong window. Which one is that? Hold on. Which one? It's this one. That's going to be with Ant on the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, you asked for it. Ant, over to you. You got up to 5 minutes, mate. Talk to us about Ryan Yates.
I've not prepared anything for this, so it's all going to be from the heart. Right, so Ryan Yates. I think that it's probably Forest's most diverse player. You know, there's a lot of love and a lot of hate. And unfortunately, a lot of that is fueled by, on both sides, by personality rather than ability. I think a lot of people love Ryan Yates because he's wholehearted. He's a Forest boy, even though he's from Lincoln. It's through the academy. So there's a lot of emotion involved when people are trying to decide whether or what kind of player he is and whether he's good enough to play in the Forest first team. And on the other side, you've got people that react to that, because we're all reactive in some ways. Football fans particularly are reactive. So if somebody says they love that player, even though you might be ambivalent towards a player, you tend to take the opposing position. And that's what I think happens with Ryan Yates. So what I wanted to do was just try and get rid of all that for a little while and just concentrate on the player himself. For me, and this is my opinion, okay, for me, I think Ryan Yates is a good lower Premier League squad player. I don't think he's a first team player, certainly not for us. Maybe for the likes of Sheffield, if they were still here, and Burnley and players like that, Ipswich maybe, then yeah, maybe he's a first team player. But for us, I don't think he is. I think I'm happy to keep him as a squad player, because I do think he can offer us something in later stages of games. What really made me want to talk about this subject was Saturday, when Danilo got his terribly unfortunate injury. I was deeply upset, but what made me even more annoyed and upset was when I saw Yates lining up to come on. I couldn't understand why any manager would consider Ryan Yates a player with more ability and more to offer the team than the likes of Elliot Anderson, or especially for me, Nico Dominguez. I mean, I would ask Ryan Yates fans, those that believe he deserves a first team, I'm still talking about a starting position in the team now. I would ask them, what does Ryan Yates do better than Nico Dominguez? I'll concentrate on Dominguez because we've not seen a lot of Anderson, okay? Although I think we all agree he's a really good prospect. So I would ask Ryan Yates fans, what exactly does he do that makes him the first team player over Nico Dominguez? Heading, I would say no. Passing, I would say no. Tackling, I would say no. Pressing, I would say no. I cannot think of anything that makes Ryan Yates the preferred choice over Dominguez. So this is not a go against Ryan Yates in a way. It's just saying how good I think Dominguez is. And I don't understand why people get so upset when somebody criticizes Ryan Yates. As a footballer, as a guy, great guy. I love the guy. Every time I see him on any of the little snippets that they bring out, he's fantastic. I love to have him there. The other question I would ask is, if Ryan Yates was not a Nottingham Forest academy player and he was playing for one of the lower league or championship teams, would you be excited about Forest going in for him? Would you say, great, we're bringing that Ryan Yates in, he'll make the first team, he'll improve us? I doubt that. I mean, that's open to the floor, obviously, but I doubt it. If we were to sell him, how much do you think we'd get? And where do you think, what kind of team do you think would go for him? I don't think there'd be a massive demand. There would be some, of course, there would be some. But I don't think that he would go to a team that are above Forest, either, or above Forest aspirations, if you like. If we're aiming to get towards that mid-table, I don't think any team above there would come in for Ryan Yates. So he's the floor, as it were. So, as I say, I mean, I've been going on a little while. I don't know how long, but I'll kind of end it with saying that I like him as a guy. I think I'm okay with him in our squad, but he's not a first team player, and I don't think he should be the first sub either. I think we bring him on when we kind of got no alternatives. I don't think he improves us as a first team. So that's it, really.
Okay, 4 minutes on the nose, then. You did it with a minute to spare. Chat, what do you think? So basically, Ant's saying he's got a Ryan Yates agenda. I'm joking. But he's put some cases there. Is Ryan Yates good enough to start? According to Ant, he's saying that he would have him more as an impact sub. Boys on the panel, what are your thoughts on what Ant says? Do either of you agree or do either of you disagree with him?
I think we need to start by saying I think that's the first time we've ever heard Ant speak for 4 minutes straight without either swearing, raising his voice, and it sounded very, I'm trying to think of the word to describe it, very un-Ant-like. I think it's probably the best way of putting it without having an actual phrase for it. So very well done, Ant. On
Joe, we're only 5 minutes into the show, mate. There's plenty of time.
I just thought it was a good response. It was pretty articulate. I'll use that as a word, but yeah, I do agree. I think he is definitely reached that level now where he's a squad player, and I think, especially now that we're seeing Sangare step up and really take that defensive midfielder role, I don't think he's going to be able to replace that, and that is where he does fit in. If you kind of look at his stats when he's been playing in the Premier League, his like attacking and passing stats are pretty dreadful, but in terms of making tackles, blocks, and clearances, he's up there, but he's just not going to be a starter. And if you were to sell him on, yeah, I can't see another Premier League club going in for him. And that just kind of shows that we have the love for him that we do because he is an academy player and probably our last attachment that we have to the squad that got promoted.
Yeah, that is right now, isn't he? Technically, he's last of the 11 that started, really, who are in there. I know there's still a couple still. Mighton, he's out on loan as well, so technically I guess he was part of that squad. But yeah, Rob, what are you saying to it?
Well, Yates had a very good game the other day in his best possible position, which is substitute. He is a substitute. As far as I'm concerned, he is in the squad as cover for Sangare. I too don't really want to see the two of them side by side, because I think that not unless you're defending a 1-0 lead away in the last 10 minutes, right? That is very much his role. I think what I would say about Yates is and by the way, this feels like some kind of therapy or marriage guidance. It's all very calm, isn't it? So I think the reason that he has his defenders is because of what he represents just as much as what he brings on the pitch, right? And what I would say about Yates is that he is a player that we've seen raise his level consistently. I mean, people have been saying that he's not good enough for the league he's in for about 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably on the best form of his career. He finished last season strongly as well, you know, with the goal at Sheffield United, which is a very important, cracking goal. So, and, you know, he could have scored a couple on Saturday as well. Does he start? Well, preferably not, because you want Sangare in that position. Now, you asked, what does he bring that Dominguez doesn't? Okay, I'll try and answer that. I think he brings possibly some passion and or some leadership, right? He's the kind of player that you can bring on to, you know, just when everybody's flagging, to kind of steady the ship and inject some energy into the team. The main thing is that he keeps that number one weakness out of his game, which is giving away stupid fouls in and out around the edge of the box. But I think actually, as long as we explain why the people that like him and why the people that don't like him dislike him, I think we're not too far apart on this player. I don't think anybody's saying like we need to get rid of him. Like, you know, we were saying, oh, Worrell should be moved on or whoever should be moved on. He's definitely got a role, and I'm quite a fan of his, but he's not in my team to start at Southampton either.
Would it be fair to say the gap between those that were adamant Yates needs to start maybe when we joined the Premier League to those positions now to those who are saying he's not a starter, has kind of shrunk and got closer? Because it does tend to feel now that most people, even those who, you know, worship the floor he's walked on, have agreed that he's probably not a starter. I just want to give you the right of response, and just before I do, 74% of the chat in terms of the votes are agreeing with you. 26% are not convinced on what you're saying. So, right,
is that because they think he should be a first teamer, or would think we should get rid of him?
That's a good question.
Well, the question was, do you agree with that? So I can't tell you more than that. But what are your thoughts on what the boys have said? They seem to be siding with you, which is strange for an FFTV scenario that people are all agreeing. We're going.
I think they're still stunned I've not been shouting and swearing. I think that's it. They don't quite know
everyone, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the point I made at the beginning was that a lot of it is passion around Yates, and that's where I think we have an issue as a fan base, is that we don't just look at the player for what he is. We look at what he represents and his feelings for the club and all that, which is part of being a footballer. I mean, let's face it, we'd all love players that passionately love Nottingham Forest, wouldn't we? You know, that would be great, but that's not the reality, is it? I've seen you. That's not the reality. So for me, I would always pick quality, technical ability over passion. And I think that's where I am with Ryan Yates. As I say,
what about the leadership point that was raised? I think it was Rob that said it. Like,
that is fair. That is the one thing that, you know, I'll hold my hands up. I missed that out on my Dominguez Yates thing. Yeah, I would say Yates is without doubt a better leader than Dominguez. But that's, you know, sort of not much. To me, that's not the biggest part of being a footballer. We've got plenty of leaders. But yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think that Yates is a good, and I think players will follow him. And I think players probably love him. But there again, if he was challenging their position, they might not love him so much. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. I think we'll put a pin in that one. It seems we're at the end of that discussion, really. Just a quick reminder for all of you, please do hit the like button. We've got 725 of you in here. And don't forget, Football Prizes is new thing. It's just the double signed frame shirt from Boly and Murillo. And you get Insta prize wins of Felipe and Tuffalo as well. If you hit those ticket numbers, you can scan Murillo right here or click in the link that's pinned in the comments. And I say, well done, Anne. Well done. A good, solid performance there. Quick shout out to a couple of the new members. We got Nikki with his 13 months. Thank you so much, beautiful Nikki. Bill creeping up on that 2-year mark with the 21 months. Thank you so much, bud. And Sharky hits the 2-year anniversary. Look at that beautiful new retro badge he's got by his name. Well done, Sharky. Thank you so much for all your support. Don't forget you can be a member to the channel for 99p. You get those cool emojis. You get the badge. You get the goals as they go in live during the games and plenty of other things as well. Okay, second topic, ladies and gents. This is the one I'm interested in tonight. Is to bring Lemmy onto the stage. And he is going to tell us all why Nketiah is the perfect fit for Forest. So, Lemmy, you got 5 minutes. The floor is yours. God, I'm looking forward to this one. Let's see what you've got, bud.
Yeah, no, I do like how you took what because you gave me a 4-word description that I was allowed to use for this. And you just changed one of the keywords, as you can see, to my right. I said that Nketiah is the right fit for Forest, and you thought that's not going to make a good title. He's the perfect fit. That will get people to come in and watch it. So I appreciate that you're doing that without telling me. But that's kind of by the by. I did think maybe I should say the perfect fit. It didn't quite sit right with me initially. I do think he is the right fit that we need, though. I think we all agree the one position that we definitely need to improve is a striker. Having Chris Wood kind of past 30s now and kind of going towards the twilight of his career, especially as a striker, is a concern. And having Taiwo Awoniyi, who's made out of a chocolate digestive, really is an issue that we have because we just can't rely on them. And this is something that I think external pundits haven't picked up on. They always say, oh, why do you need a striker? You've got 2 great strikers. We've never had 2 that have been perfectly fit and have been available at the same time. So this is why we've been in the market for one. And the issue is, I think we've been kind of inundated with so many different strikers who we could have picked up this transfer window. We were linked with Evan Nilsson before he then went to Bournemouth. We then had Santiago Jimenez, who we were kind of flirting in and out with for a while. And then we had Nketiah. I just don't think anyone was really liking the idea of having Nketiah as the striker, as the option, especially because it was the money that was on it and he was linked with Marseille and they didn't want him. But I do think he is someone that we do need. And there was kind of a couple of different ways that I was kind of looking at this. The first one was obviously comparing him to the current strikers that we've got. He's completely different in the way that I'd say Chris Wood is very much a poacher, a fox in the box. He's not going to get a lot of touches, but when he does, it's usually going to be a first-time finish in the box. And Taiwo, he's someone who just looks like he wants to run with the ball, but he's very clunky. I never really have a lot of faith with him on the ball or finishing, because he only ever scores with anything but his feet. It's usually his knees or maybe his hip. Nketiah, yeah, I think everyone's kind of seen his XG stats and they've kind of stuck their nose up at them. But the things that I've been looking at is beyond that, what does he offer? He has significantly better stats in terms of carrying the ball, picking up the ball and running with it. He's often and pretty much always making more touches than our current strikers. And it's always in the opposition's half, the final third, the penalty box for the opposition. It's very rarely he's taken a touch at the halfway line or a defensive third and then just passing it and then allowing people to run behind, and then he's not catching up with them. He's someone who likes to get the ball, make quick runs, make quick 1-2s and get in behind, which we don't have as an option for a striker. I think that's something that would really benefit the wingers that we've got, as well as having a cam like Morgan Gibbs-White to be able to play fast, dynamic football that we've all been wanting ever since we've transitioned to a 4-2-3-1. But we don't seem to want to have Nketiah just because of his stats. And I think that's because we were looking at the options coming out of the Eredivisie and saw that we could be able to get Santiago Jimenez, who's bagged a load of goals in the Eredivisie. He's got a very high price tag on him, which also makes him quite attractive as a footballer. But if you just look at some of the top goal scorers that have come out of that league in the past few years, it is so risky. You've got hit and miss. Like, you go back a couple of years, the top goal scorer was Xavi Simons. Okay, that's a hit. You've managed to pull off that one. But then you've got a bloke called Sidney van Hooijdonk, who was up there, and in the Eredivisie, he managed to score 16 goals in a season. He's then gone to the Serie A, not scored a goal. He's then gone to Norwich, not scored a goal. He's now gone to the Serie B, not scored a goal. So you can look at like Sebastian Haller, who's also a top goal scorer in there. He's gone to the Bundesliga. Okay, he did okay. But it's just so much of a risk that it's time where I think people need to think, yes, Nketiah has not got the best goal scoring record, but he's Prem proven. He's done it in this league since the age of 21. This is his time to shine. It could be the strikers version of Callum Hudson-Odoi, where we're able to kind of bring him up and really get something working with him. And that's just what I think. And I really do think that it is worth a go with Nketiah. And that's my 5 minutes.
Bang on, bang on. Well said. All right, boys, chat. The poll is open. Do you agree with Lemmy? Is Nketiah the right fit for Forest? He's arguing in the positive for it. Do you agree with him or not? Get your votes in, get your comments in. I'm trying to keep up with comments as best I can. They are absolutely flooding in. There's 845 of you in here. Please do make sure you've hit the like. And let's open this one up to the panel. And I want to start with you, because I've had a lot of messages and comments this week saying, can we get Arsenal Ant's take on it, and some of them on what he thinks on Nketiah. So what's your take on him and what Joe's just what Lemmy has just said?
Yeah, I think that the first thing we need to address is this stats thing. A lot of people are bringing up this, how many goals he scored for Arsenal. The simple fact is that Eddie Nketiah plays in a team that doesn't suit his style. Arsenal are a team with 70-80% possession every game. So therefore, they're playing against low block teams in the vast majority of games. In a low block team, that is what you need, is players that are going to pass the ball quickly to each other, move the ball around and try and create space, which is what Arsenal do with the likes of Havertz and Jesus and Odegaard, etc. We don't play like that. We play with 25% possession, counter-attacking. That's Eddie's game. Eddie's fast. Eddie's got a great goal scoring touch. Eddie is the biggest ever goal scorer for the England under-21s, taking over from Alan Shearer. The guy can score goals, but not in a team like Arsenal that don't play to his strengths. We will play to his strengths. So I agree with Lemmy 100%. I think that he is the ideal kind of player that we need. Now, none of us can predict the future. None of us can say, yeah, he's going to score 20 goals. But equally, none of us can say he's going to be a complete flop and crap. He's not crap. Arsenal offered him £100,000 a week and a 4-year contract and the number 14 shirt. That was given to him by Mikel Arteta. And I know that you are not a big Arteta fan. Me, I think Arteta is one of the best coaches in the current day game. And the fact that Arsenal are fighting for title after being in the doldrums for 20 years, I think is a testament to that. Also, if you look at his talent ID, the players that he's bought, he has had one semi-disappointing signing over 20 million, and that's Vieira. Apart from that, every other one of his signings, including the likes of Ben White at 50 million that people thought it was crazy, Kai Havertz at 65 million that people thought it was crazy. No, he can identify a player, and he identified Nketiah. But that team's moved on. That doesn't mean he's shit. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean he's shit. It means that he can't get into the Arsenal side. Well, there's a lot of players that can't get into the Arsenal side.
Poo, not shit, poo.
Poo, sorry, I beg your pardon.
It's not goals.
There are a lot of players that wouldn't get into that Arsenal side. Believe you me. Do you think Tyro or Chris would get into that Arsenal side? No. Okay. So I think he's a good signing. I'm hoping it's going to be a fantastic signing. And the fee, people are going crazy at 30 million. Trust me, I was going crazy at 30 million. But if you look around, that is kind of the going rate. Ipswich have just bought Broja, who I don't rate, who doesn't score goals, who's been injured most of his career, for 35 million. And there are other examples of that. I mean, Bournemouth have just bought this guy from Porto for 47 mil. Is he guaranteed to be a success? No, he isn't. And the point that Lemmy made about the Eredivisie, now I was massively wanting Jimenez. However, I've had a little sleep since then and a little few thoughts. And there are lots of players that come from the Dutch league. The Dutch league, I would say, is equal to our League One. You've got 2 or 3 teams that are really decent, not good, they're decent. The rest of them are atrocious. Scoring in that league is not difficult. He ain't done it in the Premier League. No other team's going in for Jimenez. So I'm with Lemmy on this. I think that Nketiah will be a good addition to. I am now actually looking forward to seeing him play.
Bloody hell. Rob, your thoughts on what Lemmy said and in general on him?
Well, when I look at the screen with my glasses off, it looks like it says Nketiah is right-footed, which is actually a very important point because I think that we might well see him playing out on the right. He's not necessarily going to always be as a centre forward. So, and this may be something, a factor in why we haven't seen Jota yet and why he may or may not be going to Olympiacos. So I think there's that question. I think that people's problem about this is mainly over the price and the wages, right? But then, you know, we had the same reservation about Chris Wood. Why have we spent 19 million on Chris Wood? And then it's turned out to be quite a good investment. So, you know, I think, as Ant's just said, if you want to get someone that's really going to move the needle at this level, which is like a Solanke or an Ivan Toney or whatever, you've got to get 60 million out, right? So, you know, unfortunately, it seems like 30 is the price. I am a bit concerned about the wages that, you know, somebody... I wouldn't say he's Prem proven, by the way. He's got Prem experience. I don't like upsetting the wage structure that much. But if I was going to say to you, Wolverines, if I said we're going to sign a player who's 25 years old, he's played for England in the last year, he's hard working, he's right-footed, you'd say, yeah, that's the sort of profile that we want. And then if I said, oh, it's Eddie Nketiah, you go, oh, no. You're right. So I think... part of your dislike is the fact
words in my mouth here.
No, but he's been around for so long. I've just checked. The first game he played for Arsenal was in 2018, right? And that's when he was 18 years old, right? He definitely needs to leave Arsenal. And I think Forest is a good fit for him. I'm not convinced that he's a good fit for us. I think there's a possible parallel here with someone like Danny Welbeck, who was sitting around at Man United and then at Arsenal, and then he made the sort of drop down to Brighton. The thing is, at Brighton, he's been there quite a while. He's never scored more than 6 or 7 goals in a season. Exactly. Now, I would be hoping for more than that from Nketiah. He needs to be getting double figures He cannot be a bit part player on 120 grand a week. So look, if we are going to sign the player, I want to give him the chance. I want to get behind him. Maybe he's going to be a 1 year, but with more skill and a bit more resilient. Who knows?
I'm going to give you a right of reply in just a second. Let me just catch up with the super chats. Chris with the £2 says yes and correct from the off. I didn't know you had a little Smurf account called Chris. You're usually a lot smarter than that, Chris. Thank you so much for the £2. Sharky with the £5. He says Nketiah is the one for us 100%. He sounds convinced now as well. Please don't forget to hit the like. Make sure you've got your tickets for the double signed framed Murillo and Boly shirt. And let me write a reply on what the boys and the chat have been saying, because the poll at the moment, mate, has you in the 66% with the chat agreeing with you and 34%. Shout out to the 34 saying no.
Well, I mean, I think the response, especially from Ant and Rob, has kind of been, I don't think there's been a lot that's kind of gone against it, apart from maybe saying he's Prem proven. I do suppose there is that. He has been kind of like he had a period of time where he hit a purple patch and he was then kind of a substitute for Arsenal. But I do think we were also saying something that was very similar about Chris Wood when he signed, which I'm pretty sure something that Ant mentioned. Like you could say that, yeah, Nketiah is an Arsenal reject, but so was Chris Wood. And he's just now been our top goal scorer last season. And we would probably be in the Championship if he wasn't part of our squad.
But let's not forget what Chris Wood was like under Cooper before Nuno came in. We can't glaze over that. He was a flop under Cooper.
He was injured.
Even when he wasn't.
I'll put in then, since everybody else is. I don't like this Arsenal reject business. Arsenal were quite happy to keep Nketiah. If they were desperate to get rid of him, they'd have sold him to Marseille for 25 million. They said no, he's worth 30. That's not a reject. We're not just getting rid of him.
That's a negotiation.
Yeah, but it's not a reject. Why is it every player you buy from another club has to be a reject? That's not the case.
But there are certain players that are rejects.
But he's not a reject. They didn't banish him to the under-21s like Chelsea have done with Raheem Sterling. That's different. He's a reject.
Yeah, but they've run out of room.
So anyway, that little point.
I'm also seeing a lot of, or maybe a few people in the chat saying, yeah, when we were saying that Chris Wood wasn't fit, but I'm pretty sure he would have got fit during the off season when we then made him a permanent signing for 15 million and everyone was hitting the roof because we did that because he triggered 3 matches and then all of a sudden he had to become a permanent signing. So
yeah,
I do like to kind of put that by the wayside. In terms of, I don't know what else was kind of mentioned from the chat with regards to trying to.
It's a Prem proven. A lot of people are talking about Prem proven. I think Rob brought it up. Like, is playing.
Yeah, he has scored most of his goals. Most of his career goals have come in the FA Cup and League Cup.
Yeah, and he got a hat-trick against Sheffield. So do you want to count those goals as well in the league?
No, but I will count.
It was a brilliant hat-trick, though. It was brilliant.
I do think scoring 2 goals against Manchester United in 2022 and then 2 goals against Chelsea at Chelsea in 2020 when he would have been 20 years old, to then score both of those goals. At that point it was 2-2 when he scored it, so then to get the winner away at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, to be able to do that, you have to take that and then compare that to what the likes of Jimenez is going to be doing against clubs in the Dutch league, where you look at the stats and you look at I mean, if you were to pull up Jimenez's stats and kind of put that on a site where you can kind of compare them to other players of the same ilk, his percentile is absolutely outrageous. But that's because it can't factor in for the fact that he's not playing in a top 5 league. It just you can't compare them on those kind of stats. So that's why I was trying to look at what kind of player would we be looking at if we were to compare Jimenez, Nketiah with Wood and then with Awoniyi. And I just feel like if we were to go down the route of Jimenez, we've then got ourselves 3 strikers who are looking to do the exact same thing.
So
Which
for you, Joe, does he come straight in as the number 9, aka the number 1? What's your hierarchy in terms
would.
of ordership?
Personally, I would bring him in straight in, because I think, especially against a team like Southampton, where if we were to get the deal over the line tonight or early tomorrow morning,
But 12, yeah.
I'd like to think if you had a front 4 of Morgan Gibbs-White, Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Nketiah running at the defence of Southampton for 60, 65 minutes, you would have to create so many opportunities in comparison to what Newcastle did, where they just created nothing and they just managed to eke over the line with a 1-0 win. I just think that pace is just something completely different that we can offer in comparison to Taiwo Awoniyi and Chris Wood. You can bring on Chris Wood, and I do think if we do have to make that substitution and bring on a fox in the box who's going to be able to put in headers, then yeah, that's fine. But Chris Wood's not really scored that many headers for us. It's pretty comparable to his header versus his left foot and his right foot. It's pretty much a 33% split across them all. So it's not like we're playing Chris Wood and just pinging in crosses all the time so he can use his height and his jumping to score headers. He's not done that much. And that's why I think we need a striker that can offer something completely different to what our current strikers can do. I know that we need a striker, period, so that we can have someone, at least 2 options in that position fit for any game in the league. But I just think we have to have someone who's completely different to what we've got available. And I just think Nketiah is the fit for that.
Let's bring some closing thoughts on this. Go on and have 30 seconds, then we'll chuck across.
I mentioned earlier that Eddie Nketiah took the record for the most number of goals scored for England under 21. I'm kind of thinking that there might be another player involved in some of those goals. I don't know this, I'm guessing, but Morgan Gibbs-White, I know, was certainly in that team alongside him. And I think that Eddie Nketiah is the ideal striker for Morgan Gibbs-White, because he will run those channels and Morgan Gibbs-White will be able to find with those balls. Half the time Morgan Gibbs-White's got the balls, Chris Wood is behind him and Taiwo is on the injured table. So to actually have a striker that's going to be making those runs into those channels, it must be like manna from heaven for Morgan Gibbs-White. I think that could be quite important.
Go on, Rob. Closing
Well,
thoughts.
I would agree that he would be a good player for the Southampton game. It would be very good if we could get the signing over the line in time. And I get the feeling that's what they're looking to do. I mean, I've got Awoniyi in my team for Southampton for that reason. I don't think it's a Chris Wood type game. You want someone who's going to stretch the play off the shoulder of the defender.
Okay. Well, you lot have convinced Si in the chat by the looks of it, and a few others. Joe, 68% are agreeing with you. 32 are saying no. Decent percentage. To say that the poll we did the other day with the choice between Jimenez, Mukuku, and Nketiah had Nketiah on 13% of the votes. Oh, Joe, you've swung quite a few. I'm still not fully convinced myself.
You will be. I can picture it now in a couple of months' time. All right, hold my hands up.
I'm not going to say he's going to flop. I just think we can do better. Chris with the £2, he says his total minutes for Arsenal would equal 56 games. Yeah, that stat packing, Chris. Come on, man. He's coming on end of matches. Players are tired. There's a difference between the first minute and the last minute.
But it's also
that's another thing, though. Sorry, that's another thing, though, isn't it? People are looking at his stats and his minutes, etc., and goals per minute and what have you. It's very difficult for a player that's continuing coming on a substitute who's not getting a proper run in the team. Hopefully, at our club, he'll get a run in the team, and we might see the best of him.
Go on, Jay. What are you saying?
No, I completely agree with Ant on that. If you're bringing on, especially a striker off the subs bench, when are you doing it? You're not doing it in like the 40th or in like the early second half. You're bringing a striker on in the 70th, 75th minute because you're a goal behind and you have to try and save the game. If you're a striker playing 15 minutes at the back end of a game against a defence that's holding on for a dear life to try and hold on to the win, you've got no chance of trying to score a goal, as opposed to being a starting striker at 0 minutes against a very open game where you're going to assume that both teams are going to be going for it. It's completely different like the stat padding that you have to do for that, for coming off the bench, is incredible to be able to try and pull off something in comparison to a striker who's going to be a constant starter.
The only thing I'd say back to that is how many scenarios has he come off the bench where Arsenal are losing and the defence are holding on for their lives?
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's come off the bench where Arsenal are winning 3-0, you'd then be questioning why is he the substitute, why he's coming off the bench, unless it's like something where you're trying to boost his confidence, or maybe it's like an EFL Cup game,
or resting the better players like they do with Haaland. Pep will bring him off once they've won the game, rest him up, that kind of thing. But let's move forward.
Yeah, then you're not trying to fish for a win, are you? If you're usually if we are bringing a striker off of the bench, it's because we're going for either to try and save a losing position into a draw, or we feel like we've got them on the ropes here, we might be able to pinch one more goal. It's very rare that you bring a striker on off the bench and it's because, it's because we're just scoring for fun and we're going to be able to stat pad him and he's going to get a hat-trick off the bench.
He's definitely
I would also add to that I would suggest that the vast majority of Eddie Nketiah's substitute appearances, he's coming on against a low block, 11 men behind the ball, desperate team. You know what I mean? He's not coming on in a free-flowing open game, is he? So it's more difficult. But yeah, we'll see, won't we? We'll see.
Okay, let's catch up with the super chat. Sebastian with the $5 saying, from the USA, just became a football fan last Christmas. I've been supporting Forest since. I think Nketiah and Morgan Gibbs-White combo up there could be top tier. Thanks so much, Sebastian. Welcome to the Forest family. Well done for choosing the right club, but be prepared for heartache, good times, the lot. You're on a roller coaster ride right now, but we'll happily guide you through it. Welcome to football as well. And we got a crypto rider in the chat with the $4.99. He says, what we've learned tonight is that Ant, Lemmy, and Rob are all wrong. Yet again. Joe agreeing with Ant means something is wrong. Nketiah gonna flop.
Yet again, I love
Rob's
that.
not even had it say and he's wrong.
I do love the yet again, especially after we've got our own group chat where I've been posting several clips from last season where I was just proved to be right and I was the oracle, and now all of a sudden I'm wrong yet again. So
he's
I will
turned on you.
This one has been clipped, and if we do get an Nketiah and he then bags at least 10 goals, I will bring this up.
Fantastic. Right, we've now got over 1,000 of you across the platform, 530 on YouTube, and then about another 500 odd on Twitter. Make sure you've hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure you're subscribed if you're new. This is your place for your daily Forest content on YouTube, on Twitter, on all the platforms. And a quick reminder to grab your tickets for this double frame signed beautiful Forest home kit shirt with Murillo and Boly on the signatures. Ticket 281 gives you an insta-win on Felipe, and 115 an insta-win on the Tuffalo shirt as well. And we will now change the seats and bring Senor Rob onto the floor. And this is
really
on
sorry.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt, but it has just been posted that Joe has now gone to Burnley. I don't know if we wanted to.
Yeah, well, Joe, I've seen that as well. He's officially gone to Burnley. We wish him the best of luck.
We do genuinely wish him the best of luck.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect segue from especially what Ant was saying, where there was a lot of people saying he deserved it or had to start for Forest. But even though everyone on this panel was probably criticising him and saying he shouldn't be starting, he's not Premier League worthy, there's not one of us that wants anything bad to happen to him. I want just the best for him, and what he did for us in our promotion season cannot be forgotten. It's going to be living with us for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
At least. So
yeah, well said.
Joe Worrell, best of luck, and you are Forest through and through, and we're always going to remember what you've done for us.
Oh, I'm getting tears in my fucking eyes now.
Yeah, and let's not forget.
Now is a good time to keep quiet.
Listen, Rob. Seriously, mate, I'm not ignoring you, but I'm just going to nip and get a can. All right, but I will be listening.
All the better.
Yeah. All right. So, Rob, the topic is keep calm and carry on. It's in relation to there has been some noise even from certain people within our FFTV world, of a little discontent with Nuno after one game. So, Rob, I believe you'll be arguing on the Nuno topic. I'll get a poll up for the chat, and the floor is yours, mate.
This doesn't even need to be a long one. Now, there's going to be some people say, why are we even having this discussion? And I would agree. But one game into the season, there do seem to have been some rumblings. So I'm, of course, talking about the manager. Nuno has had his detractors, it's fair to say. Now, that might just be people that didn't like what they see in the second half of last season, or some people out of a misplaced loyalty to Steve Cooper. Now, what I would say no one can deny about Nuno is that he has given the team an identity, even if it is the identity of a team that loses 3-2. But a decision was taken. I mean, we discussed this at the end of last season. A decision was taken to give him a pre-season and give him a transfer window. Now, I would say that the pre-season has gone well overall, and I would say that the transfer window has gone well. So one game into the season, we're now hearing some of these folks saying we need to dump him and it's time to move on at the worst possible time, having just completed that pre-season and the transfer window. Now, look, I am sympathetic. I was pretty critical myself after Saturday. The trouble is that Bournemouth game is it just had too many echoes of last season. You know, inability to hold on to a lead, inability to beat Bournemouth. A lot of the players were in the same position, and I was critical that we didn't see enough of the new signings. But I think it's always the way, actually. It's surprising how you always seem to start the new season in the way that you finish the last one. It's harder than you think to really draw a line. So I'm just going to give like 4 or 5 reasons for positivity and 4 or 5 reasons to get behind the manager. Firstly, we have barely seen the new players yet, right? We had about half an hour of Anderson, and that was it. There is someone in those 5 or 6 signings who is really going to ignite our season. Now, I don't know who it's going to be, whether it's going to be Milenkovic or potentially Ramon Sousa or Jota, or even Carlos Miguel might get a run. So there's all sorts of potential there we haven't even seen yet, okay? Secondly, the transfer window isn't even finished yet. So we may still sign Nketiah or Jimenez or somebody else and somebody else, right? So the idea like, oh, let's, I tell you what, why don't we just sack the manager just as we're about to finish a transfer window? Madness. And then, you know, let's just reiterate what he did. A lot of us, self-included, were genuinely worried last season. He did keep us up with points to spare. Admittedly, that was partly due to Luton and Burnley being so abject. But, you know, let's remember how he did it. He changed our formation to 4-2-3-1. He got the best out of Wood, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, Murillo. I mean, that's what you look for in a manager. That's what you want. You want a manager who's going to get the best out of your key players. And I think he has done that for us. He is proven, as the GOAT would say. This seems to be a new buzzword. You can see what he's done with Wolves. I mean, even Spurs, where he got sacked, he had a win percentage of 50%. I'd take that right now. And then it's back to the usual question of, like, who's available, right? So if you look at our previous targets, Glasner went to Palace. Lopetegui's gone to West Ham. That leaves yet again Potter. I don't know why we're always talking about him. Or Marco Silva. Yeah, I keep hearing you take him in a flash. Why on earth would he want to leave Fulham at the moment? Right? So there's not an obvious candidate. So what I would say is, look, clearly, if we get to the midpoint of the season in December and we're involved in a relegation fight, we've had a poor run of results, he's lost the dressing room. So if you kind of replicate...
You have 1 minute.
Yeah, if you replicate the circumstances in which we got rid of Cooper, then of course it should be a question. But after one game against Bournemouth, just keep calm and carry on. So I'm arguing for Nuno in, and that, my friends, is 5 minutes.
You actually timed yourself.
Yes,
you
I
sad
fucking did.
loser.
Just so you don't have a go at me. Thank
I
you
don't
very
think
much.
that's
Mic
I had
drop.
a timer up on my screen to make sure that I didn't cross over 5 minutes.
Don't worry, don't worry. Mod
And guess
will be.
what? I didn't.
Mod, that's why you only did 4. Mod will be is on it. All right, Lemmy, what are your thoughts on what Rob's saying? There's a little noise. I wouldn't say there's much, to be honest, but I think there's a bit of knee-jerk reaction to how we didn't beat Bournemouth. But what are your thoughts on what Rob said in chat? If you agree with Rob, vote yes in the chat. If you don't, vote no.
I mean, I almost feel like I'd be in the twilight zone if I didn't support Forest and there wasn't a single knee-jerk reaction after a week of football. It's almost like every single week, if we've not done right what we expected, right, this person has to go, the manager's got to go. But any time that we win, it's like, oh my God, we're the best team going, we're going to hit Europe. So we are very reactionary, I think, as a fan base. I think that's just coming from the fact that we've not been in the Premier League for 20 odd years, and now all of a sudden we feel like we're ready for the big time. One thing where Rob did mention that I think he said Nuno was kind of like the king of 3-2s. I did want to point out that it was actually Steve Cooper who was the king of losing 3-2. I think he did it like 5 or 6 times, as opposed to Nuno's done it maybe 3 or 4 times, one of which was where Boly got sent off for a red card against Bournemouth. But no, overall, I do agree. I think what we've been able to, especially seen in this pre-season, and been able to get like the positive impacts, especially out of players like Sangare. I think if you were to bring a brand new manager in now who's going to try and impact a brand new philosophy, that could have such a detrimental impact to someone like that. It's absolutely brain dead to think that bringing in a new manager after one game of not losing or winning against Bournemouth is just ludicrous. So I do agree. We just have to calm down, see how things go. Let's get through, especially this next period of 3 games where I think we've all kind of overshot and expected 7 to 9 points. Let's get through that, then go through some of the more difficult games. Then we can reassess, especially after the transfer window's closed. Let's then look where we are, try and get to Christmas. We should be fine. We shouldn't really be in a relegation fight. And I think that's where we have to then be making sure we are well clear of. If we are flirting in the areas of bottom 3 by Christmas, this will then be a completely different conversation. But for now, there's no point even talking about it. Let's follow Nuno all the way.
Well, Ant, I want to bring you in because you did knee-jerk, I think it would be fair to say, after the Bournemouth game. And, you know, with your reasons, off the back of what Rob said, how are you feeling now about the Nuno situation?
Yeah, well, first of all, when I saw Yates being brought on as the first substitute for Danilo, I must admit my knee jerk that much, I nearly dislocated it. It was, you know, and obviously on the show later on Sunday, I expressed my disappointment and said get rid. I didn't really mean that, obviously. I mean, Rob's absolutely right. It would be absolute madness to get rid of Nuno. In fact, I think Rob only chose this subject because he wanted to win. He just wanted to win the percentage war. I think that's what it is.
I was expecting you to disagree.
No. Of course I wouldn't get rid of it. I mean, I might be stupid sometimes, but, you know, not always.
But I get what you said about not wanting to get rid of him, but I think you did. You know, I know you were emotional about it and it was hot under the collar, but you did raise some good points. The substitutions have been poor.
Yeah.
Is the football really that much more positive than under Cooper? You know, these type of questions I think need answering.
You're absolutely right. I'm not totally sold on Nuno at all. I think he's got a hell of a lot to prove. I think last season we rode the wave of when he arrived, or the wave of changing managers, let's say. I think we rode that, and it was enough in the end to keep us up. But if the season had gone on, you know, who knows? Because we weren't doing that brilliantly. And the style of football, people keep saying there's a great difference in the style of football. Yeah, there was a better style of football, but not that major. I mean, we were still a defensive team. We were still a low blockish team. We were still a counter-attacking team. Possession stats, I don't think we were a great deal better under Nuno than we were under Cooper. So it's not all rosy in the garden. And I am worried about his substitutions. I can remember a number of occasions where his substitutions have been, or lack of, have been disastrous. So he's not off the hook for me. He's still unproven for me, and he needs to prove it. And the next few weeks will be that proving ground. I'm not sort of, I'm less, I said, if you remember, I said that I was less confident after the game than I was before. And that's because I saw little change. I saw us play very well in the first half, not capitalize on the chances, and then regress in the second half, concede yet again late on. We conceded from a corner yet again, although it was luckily offside. So where was the great improvement? I didn't see a lot of it. But I'm hoping that with the new players, we will see that. And that's as much as I can say about it. At the moment, of course, I wouldn't get rid of Nuno right now. As Rob quite rightly says, it'd be stupid. But he is on trial for me. I need to see an improvement in the style of play. I need to see a little bit more possession. We're not going to turn into Manchester City or Arsenal, but we should have more possession than we're currently. I say currently have. We've only had one game, but you know what I mean, against Bournemouth.
Well, we did have 54% in that game.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I'll say that's fine. 54% for us is very good, actually, even at home. So I will concede that. It didn't feel like that in the second half, though. It felt very much like, here we go again. In fact,
you'd be right to think that. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but we were in the 60s in the first half, so.
Yeah. The Bournemouth fans said it best of all, didn't they? It's happening again. And that's exactly how I felt. Yeah. But the biggest thing for me was, having spoken on Ryan Yates earlier on, the biggest sort of downfall for me was that substitution. I was absolutely appalled that we set up with a progressive attacking style of football with an attacking aggressive number 8 in Danilo. And then instead of bringing on somebody of a similar mold, we bring on Ryan Yates, who is not an attacking, I don't care what anybody says, he's not an attacking midfield player. So that for me was a negative. But, he needs time. He'll get time. I think that he will be given until Christmas by Mr. Marinakis.
Yeah. Rob, write a reply, Rob. Over to you.
Well, I think every manager is constantly on trial. Every manager is 5 or 6 games from a sacking, and that's never not the case. So I think possibly we need to change our own mentality, because we are so used to being in a relegation scrap. You get like a 1-1 draw at home with Palace and think, oh my God, we've dropped 2 points, we're going down. Yeah. So it's like, we've got to stop thinking like that. If we genuinely believe that we are good enough to come mid-table this year, then you've got to understand that sometimes you have a bad day at the office, right? So for example, if we go to Southampton and we get a draw, we should not have a meltdown. We shouldn't think, oh my God, that was one of our 3 winnable away games. We've dropped 2 points. Oh my God, we're only 1 point off the drop zone. We've got to stop thinking like that, because it feeds on itself, right? So we've definitely got the quality in the squad. We've got more balance in the squad. He's more familiar with the players. The squad is getting tighter. I think we've got the right conditions. So I think we've got to try and dampen down our overreaction a little bit to everything that's happening, because we have been through a very traumatic season. We play our own part in moving on from that and try to become a more established Premier League team.
Okay.
Can I just very quickly respond to that? Yes, Rob, you're right. We shouldn't get overexcited with a 1-1 draw at home to Bournemouth and a 1-1, let's say we draw at Southampton. But I need to see the performance improve. If we go to Southampton, we play really well, we attack well, we're a bit unlucky, they get a goal and win, okay, you know that it's going to get better. But if we go there and we're defensive, we're low blocky, we don't create anything, there's no passing movements in midfield, and we lose 1-0, then that's when I worry. So it's more to do with, at this time of the season, It's more to do with performance going, and to see what we can expect going
I
forward.
rewatched the highlights of Bournemouth a couple of times before this, and actually, I have to say, we did carve out some really decent chances. We had the Boly header, the Awonyi header, we had a shot saved from Yates, good shot saved from Ilanga. So, I think we created enough chances to score 2 or 3 goals in that game. So, come on. We're just a little bit unlucky.
That second half performance, though, Rob, was
I know.
Very similar to last season.
Let's not go back over the game, but 2 of the sets of subs were forced on us by injury. I wouldn't get too much on his back about the subs, but anyhow, we should probably end that segment there.
Let's look forward now. This will be a nice segue into the boys' predicted team. Not their predicted teams, their wanted teams. And I'll tell you what, there's some interesting choices there. I'll tell you poll results in just a second. Don't interrupt the host, mate. Interrupt the others, not the host. All right, Curtis, thank you so much for the $5. He says, "Have any of you read The Godfather of Champions? That was the book that made me a Nottingham Forest fan." Interesting. Any of you boys read it? I don't read books.
I don't.
Can't say I've heard of it.
Interesting.
Right.
Gonna look
We'll
it up
look
now.
at send us the Amazon link. Yeah, we'll have a look at that one. I'd love to know why you became a Forest fan for a book. That sounds interesting. Thank you for the $5, mate, and thank you for the £5, Isaac. Wood isn't really suited to our counter-attacking system with lower crossing numbers. Wood, therefore, Nketiah should be a better fit with his pace. He says, "Yeah, I think Wood's been playing way too deep, but he's still scoring goals."
Can when you get the chance, Wolfie, can you have a look at Nketiah's heat maps? Very interesting. A lot of around the box, not 20 yards from the area, but actually on the edge of the box. And that for me is, vital.
Well, once and if we do sign him, we'll do a full scout report on him. And I'll see if I can get Don Robbie on to give us the Arsenal perspective of it. I'm sure the legend Don Robbie will be willing to give us some time, no doubt. And then this isn't a super chat, but this show needs a quiz. It does not need a quiz.
We want to poll. We want to poll. Does it need a quiz?
No quiz. There. Even if the poll said yes, it's a no. Rob, you got 72% of the vote there in agreement with you. 28 against. I can't remember what the other stats were, so I don't know who's won overall on the votes.
I will take my. I know that I've probably fell third in that, but since I took on the controversial topic, I'm quite happy that I was able to compete.
I thought you argued it well, mate. I'm slightly more convinced, still not fully convinced on him. Okay, let's move into the teams and let's see what the boys have put together. And Lemmy, I'm going to kick off with your team, mate. Chat, start remembering this team, because I'm going to ask you which you prefer. So I'll read it out as it comes, and then we'll let Lemmy explain his thought process. So let me just change the brand there. So here comes Lemmy's team for you, ladies and gents. He is going with Sells in goal at left back, Moreno. Murillo will partner Milenkovic. Einar on the right-hand side. Anderson, Sangare, and Gibbs-White make up the 3. And then Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Chris Wood up front. Now, 2 things just to say of note here for Lemmy. He's changed it to a 4-3-3, and he would have put Nketiah in if he had already signed, but obviously that's not over the line. So Lemmy, talk us through your team. Firstly, for me, mate, why have you changed to a 4-3-3?
So I've changed to a 4-3-3, especially in this formation, because I think there was a lot of conversations, especially last week in kind of following the game against Bournemouth, where we were saying, oh, I would have loved to see Morgan Gibbs-White drop into an 8, or, oh, I think Anderson probably should be starting as an 8. I'd rather play this kind of formation where it's completely set out. Sangare is our defensive midfielder. He's going to sweep up. He's going to sit in front of the back 2, especially the back 2 centre backs. He's going to mop up anything that's kind of happening in the midfield in front of them. He is our best player in terms of making tackles, making interceptions, cutting things out, and then he's good at transitioning the ball forwards. I'd rather start with a formation like this and not have a locked-in cam. I'd rather have 2 central midfielders who can play that cam role, in Anderson and Gibbs-White and have them be able to be in a position where they can pivot and transition. One of them can make the move forwards into more of a central role and try and bring something forward, and the other one can then probably sit a little bit further back. But then you can then, once it's then coming back towards us, you can then rotate it around. I think having Anderson and Gibbs-White not as traditional cams, but in front, maybe sat a little bit further back as a centre mid, but have them have that option to then be able to push further forward. The other one can take a little bit of a break. I'm going to drop a little bit further back, and then I'm going to be the first person on the counter. I just think this makes so much more of a progressive and very dynamic attack as opposed to having a traditional 4-2-3-1. And I would rather have, instead of Wood, I would have, if it was an option, I'd have Nketiah as that attack, because it really does then impose, we are going to attack with pace. We're going to counter-attack you very quickly. And against Southampton, I think that's going to be the death of them, because that's just not what happened last weekend. I think against Southampton, if you were to play this kind of team or a formation, you are going to get very quick goals, and it's just going to be able to put you in a position where you're not going to get absolutely run over.
You're getting a lot of "I like it" from the chat. Just looking through the message, through the comments, the chat. Remember this team. But boys, let me open up to you two on the panel. Anyone want to jump in, and what are your thoughts about this change to a 4-3-3?
I'll go first. I like it. It's ambitious, but I don't quite think we are there yet. I'm not sure Sangare is quite ready yet for that responsibility. He's moving in the right direction, you know, and that is the position that he was bought to play. 100%. I'm just not sure he's quite there yet. In terms of the two, Anderson and Gibbs-White, I mean, my team has the same three in the middle, just in a different arrangement. I'm a little bit worried about players getting in each other's way there, especially if Wood is your striker, because he's going to be playing deep, and I think they might be tripping over each other.
Which is why I want to caveat that with, I didn't want Wood as my striker. I wanted Nketiah, but
you could have chosen Taiwo.
He didn't have the animation for that, so I wasn't allowed.
We haven't signed him. We haven't signed him.
The last time we played 4-3-3 was away at Brighton, and we didn't create shit. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But I like the ambition of it, and I think I don't quite have the confidence in Sangare yet.
Do you feel, Ant, looking at a team that Sangare would get overrun in a 4-3-3 then?
No, I have massive belief in Sangare, so I do believe he can cope with that position. The thing is, playing against Southampton, now I'm not going to profess to be a Southampton expert. I didn't watch them at all last season because they were in a different league. But I do hear that they average like something like 70% possession. Yeah, that's kind of, that's something we've got to try and overcome. I was a little bit concerned about Lemmy saying that he believes that we can like attack them quickly on the counter attack, because Chris Wood, many things, quick is not one of them. That would be a slight concern for me. But apart from that, I like the team. I do. But that's area of concern I would have.
Just on the right-hand side, if I can chip in, let me ask you a question. You've dropped Nico Williams completely. You bring in Moreno straight in. I think Nuno said in his presser today he's still undergoing the medical checks. Not a medical, but the blood thingies they do and what have you. Are you happy to chuck Moreno straight in? Quick word on Moreno, because I haven't really mentioned him tonight.
I think I would be, and I think it would be for the reason that he is probably renowned for being a very attacking fullback. So he's going to be trying to make overlapping runs. If that then allows Hudson-Odoi to cut in and maybe a little bit more, I'm all for it. And as long as we are then committing to Sangare being sitting deep as a 6 in front of Murillo and Milenkovic, who are both probably more than capable of catching, if we were to get caught on a break for a bad pass or a tackle that gets allowed, and all of a sudden we've got I don't even know, Brighton Diath, as he likes to be called now, on the break. We've got more than enough in defence to be able to cope with that. I just think this is the kind of team that's just set up to then just overload Southampton, and we would get more than one goal. I'd like to think we'd be able to get 2 or 3 here in this kind of formation. So we've then got credit in the bank if we are able to concede a goal, since we are consistently unable to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah, it's interesting. We got just to let you guys know, we've got a preview with Sorry Mike coming out tomorrow morning. That beautiful, sexy voice is back. It's back as well. And shout out to Ez. He's been on their channel tonight. Well, as soon as he jumped back home, he got on there about 8:15. So make sure you check out Match Day Vlogs. Ez is on there representing Forest, but we'll have the Sorry Mike preview out tomorrow morning. That soothing voice, man, it's so beautiful. I'm so happy Southampton are back. But I mean, you got a 95% return on your votes from the chat in terms of liking your team. I did a quick poll there. That's quite high, mate. That's quite high.
Before seeing any of the other teams, so I will.
Well, yeah, just as a little litmus test. Let's bring on Ant's team next. I'll shout it out for you guys, and let's see what the chat think of this one. Ant, you look nervous.
Well, I was just thinking, I'm glad I did reasonably okay in the other vote, because I think this one is going to plummet me down.
All right, let's bring it up. Let me shout it out. Let me shout it out for the ones who are listening on the podcast. And Ant has gone for a 4-2-3-1 with Sells in goal, Moreno, Murillo, Milenkovic, and Einar making up his back four. Sangare and Dominguez in the 2, Morgan Gibbs-White in the 10, and he's gone for Sosa on the right. Hudson-Odoi on the right-hand side. He's pushed him across. Sosa on the left, and he's gone for Big T up front. And there's a lot to unpack.
I went for Nketiah.
Okay, but we haven't signed him.
Okay.
He could get hijacked. He could get injured. It could be anything. I'm
Just
still holding
in mind, folks. My number 9 would be Nketiah if he's available.
All right, but he's not here. We can deal with what we've got.
We're going to tie with it. No problem.
Yeah. So talk us through this. I think for me, the first standout thing, Anne, is Sosa in on the left and Chow over on the right hand side.
Yeah, right. I realise that this is rather attacking and maybe even a little untested. I realise that. But I just wanted to have a bit of fun. I wanted to sort of put down a team that I really liked. You know, a team that I would think, yeah, go for it, boys. And that's what I've done. The back four, I've put Moreno in because he is a quality left back. I know he's had his injury issues. I'm aware of that. But let's say he's fully fit and up to speed. I think he's a superb left back. His forward runs. I mean, season before last, he was probably top 3 or 4 left backs in the Premier League. He was absolutely fantastic in the season where Villa qualified for the European Cup. So yeah, Moreno would be there, which obviously means Einar goes on the other side. I've got nothing against Nico. I like Nico. I think he's a damn good player, but I think Einar's better. As for the midfield, you know I love Dominguez. He's such a terrier. You know what I mean? And I can't see a lot of players getting past Sangare and Dominguez. I think that those two together will be immense. Then obviously we've got MGW for the creativity. I've put Sosa in because I just want to see the guy. I want to change. I want to see him. All right. Let's see how he goes. I know it's a stupid thing to do, perhaps, or many people would consider it a stupid thing to do. But, you know, this is just me, isn't it? It doesn't matter. He's not really going to play, so it doesn't matter. Put a light down. So I'd go for Sosa on that left wing. I really want to see the guy play, which means I have to shove Callum over to the right, but he can play right wing. Callum can play right wing. There's no problem there. And I think he's a better all-round footballer than Elanga. Nothing against Elanga, don't get on my back, but I just think he's a better all-round footballer, a more intelligent footballer. And he's got a bit more to his game. And then Tyrell, I would have added Nketiah, but obviously he's not been signed. That's fair enough. So I would have Tyrell there on the proviso. Let's pretend that Tyrell's fit and healthy, yeah? I know it's a crazy sort of concept, but let's just pretend for a minute that Tyrell's fit and healthy. Then he is my striker because he's got more pace than Wood, obviously. And I think that he would suit this system better than Chris Wood because I'm aiming for speed. And that's it.
Rob, thoughts on this team? Anything sticking out to you?
Well, I think it would definitely catch Southampton by surprise. I like Sosa starting, actually. And I've also gone for a 1 year up front. I've assumed in my lineup that Einar's injured, so before everybody jumps on me. But, I mean, I out of the two teams, I kind of prefer that one to Lemmy's marginally just because it's the formation that we're used to. And I think it's It's interesting. It might be a bit of a backfire, but it's a very again, it's another ambitious lineup.
It's a bit risky, isn't it, Rob? It's a bit risky.
I like it though.
Joe, what are you saying?
I mean, yeah, I do understand that some people are going to say, yeah, they prefer this lineup as opposed to mine because the formation is what we've played. The reason that I wanted Sangare as a sole CDM is because I just think that's how we play. It doesn't matter if we play in this 4-2-3-1 as you're seeing it on the screen, or as a 4-1-2-3 as I was trying to play it. You're not expecting Dominguez to be kind of sat back with Sangare at the same time the entire time. I just think Dominguez, yeah, he's a brilliant midfielder, and like Ant said, he's a terrier, but he likes to press extremely high. And if you've got him as your other centre mid as opposed to Sangare,
well, no, that's sorry. Let me just say that's where Wolverine. I forgot what your other name was. And Wolverines. That's where Wolverines put them. I would have Dominguez further forward than that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I then think is then probably playing more into kind of the formation that I was trying to suggest in mind, where I've got more of a rotation in terms of cams, and they're not cams anymore because I want to drop Morgan, who was right further back.
You're almost saying a 8 in yours. Are you saying that?
One of them pushes up in mine. Like you'd have Morgan Gibbs White push up, and then Anderson sits back. He's not getting into the box. And then on the opposite time, next time we have possession, you then rotate. Anderson's doing more of the push. With this one, bringing Sosa in immediately. Yeah, I wouldn't be completely object to it, but I would be bringing him in on the right hand side because Hudson-Odoi, I do like to think of him as our left wing Robin. He has one trick in his book, and he does it with almost 100% efficiency. It's brilliant. He cuts in on his right hand foot, and he's able to curl it into the left hand post. Bringing him in on the right hand side just cuts that out completely. He does not like to use his left foot, and we saw that when we were playing last season. He had a clear chance against Fulham where he could have taken the shot on his left against just a straightforward goalkeeper. He decided to stop, bring it back, try and bring it onto his right, and then he got caught out by a centre back that was running back. So I would never.
The reason I've done that, let me sorry, is because I want Sosa to play in his natural position. It's his first game. I don't want to be putting him out of position.
But you're not weakening us by doing, because Sosa can play on the right, and he can literally do the same as Hudson-Odoi.
Okay, I mean, from what I've understood, and from what I've sort of read and seen on, he is a left winger primarily. But if you're telling me he can play equally well on the right, then by all means swap him over. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I just wanted, with it being his first game, I wanted him to be comfortable in his own position. Start, that was my reasoning behind that.
Yeah, well, the vote, Ant, has you on 67% liking your team. So, he doesn't like that. Chat, look at his face.
No. I'm surprised, actually. I thought I was going to get hammered with this.
You know what he's going to do? He's just realised.
Goals with that team. Oh, don't be stupid.
So, you know what he's about to do, chat? I know what he's about to vote yes himself. So I'm going to close the poll before he can. Right? So that's Ant's team. We're about to go on to Robert's team. So remember those two teams. I'll ask you which you like best at the end. And let's run you through Rob's team. So Roberto has gone for a 4-2-3-1. He has put Sells in goal. He's gone with Moreno, Murillo, Boly, and Williams as his right back. In his 6 and 8, he's gone for Gibbs White and Sangare. Anderson in the 10. He's gone with Alanga on the right, Hudson-Odoi on the left, and Taiwo up front. Rob, the big one there, again, you're still pushing this Gibbs White Anderson 8-10 agenda here. What were your thoughts on the team?
Right. So, first of all, we don't really know who's going to be fit for this. There's quite a lot of variables in this. Will Nketiah be signed in time? Is Aina injured? Is Alanga injured? It's a bit like Donald Rumsfeld. There are known knowns, known unknowns, etc., etc. So what I've assumed here is that Aina is injured, but Alanga is fit, and Nketiah is not signed in time. Right. So before anybody says why we've done that, so going from so for the game plan overall, not a great time to play Southampton because this is their first game back at home.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that like Archer and Brereton Diaz never went away. They are the Sheffield United front line reincarnated. So they're going to hit the ground running, right? I think they're going to have a right go at us. So I think we need to have a team that is designed around the counter-attack. Now, I am not saying we're going to go up and set up to defend. I'm just saying that our best chances will come from the counter-attack. And this is a team very much picked around that. Now, just building from the back, I wanted Miguel to start last game, but he didn't. So Sells is now basically, he's in possession, if you like. So until he screws up, he is the goalkeeper. I don't see any reason to change that. Now, I'm the only one that's gone for Boly, and there's a reason for that. I think that Brereton Diaz, he's a bit crazy, actually. Have you seen his interviews? He's kind of like, he's got this kind of energy and sort of shithousery about him. And the way he got Fabian Schär sent off last week, I'm a little bit worried about having Milenkovic marking him, right? Because we all know Milenkovic, the one question mark over him is his disciplinary record. I don't think this is the game where I want Milenkovic to make his debut. Boly was, for me, man of the match last game. I had a really good chance as well. I think he's good from set pieces, for and against. I see no reason to drop Boly. So Boly for the continuity. Maybe Milenkovic as a sub if we're defending a lead. Now, the reason I've gone for Sangare and Gibbs-White as the defensive midfielders, I think both of them have an excellent passing range to pick out long balls to Elanga, Awonyi, and a lesser extent Hudson-Odoi. Both of them have that range of passing. They've proved it. Just think about that. Remember that last game of the season where we got the 1-1 at Crystal Palace? That long ball that Gibbs-White did with the outside of his foot through to Awonyi. So I think both Sangare and Gibbs-White have that in their locker. I haven't seen that yet from Anderson. I want to say to Anderson, you're the number 10. Make that position yours, right? This is your chance to make that position yours. He's got to be offered it at least once. Now, in terms of the wingers, I went for Elanga because of the pace, and same with Awonyi because of the pace. So that's a pure decision about counter-attacking. But I'm hoping that we're going to see Sousa and or Jota and or even Nketiah at some point in the game. But that's who I would start with.
Okay, Lemmy, thoughts on this team? Both you and Ant went for Milenkovic ahead of Boly. A lot in the chat are and ahhing over Boly. At the moment, Rob, you're only at 60% agreeing, 58 now agreeing with you. So get your votes in. Sorry, 57 against, 43 agreeing with you. It's even worse, mate.
How many times did Pat vote? Pat's got a real agenda at the moment. Pat needs to calm down.
So, Lemmy, what are you saying to this team? Because both you and Ant went for Milenkovic ahead of Boly. So I assume you disagree with Rob here.
Yeah, I mean, I do see in a sense, and I know that on the press score we said that Boly was man of the match and you shouldn't really be dropping man of the match. But I just feel like, especially when you've brought in Williams as our starting left back, you've acknowledged that he's going to be bombing forwards. You know that we're going to basically be playing with a 3-back, and you're relying on Nico Williams to then cover for that. I would rather have Milenkovic, who's then got at least a little bit of pace, as opposed to Boly, who we're only bringing in as a clearance merchant. Over that, in terms of the midfield, I feel like you probably on the same wavelength as me. I don't agree that Morgan Gibbs-White would be a central defensive midfielder, and you're purely.
I think he meant an 8. I think he just misspoke.
Yeah. The more forward of the two.
The 8.
Yeah, but I just think I'd rather have them both as an option to be able to press forward, and that means that they can both then save their legs and be available for the entire 90, as opposed to Anderson is only going to be the starting cam, and Morgan Gibbs-White has to play in that 8.
Yeah. Just before I bring Ant in, a lot are asking about Einar. There was no update given on him because the journalists are so crap at asking their questions in the presser. No one asked him about
likes
it, so
to
he
keep
offered nothing.
Injury situation quiet as well, doesn't he?
Well, they spoke about Danilo and stuff, but no one asked him about Einar, unfortunately, or on Elanga either. And your thoughts on the team, slightly different to yours, kind of more orthodox front four if you switched Gibbs White around.
Yeah.
What are you saying there?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'd say is, and I've said this repeatedly on different streams, is that people are obsessed with numbers, i.e. he's a number 8, he's a number 10. And I always say to you, don't I, and everybody gets on at me, football is a fluid game. Football is a fluid game. So because you're number 10, you've got a number 10 on your back and somebody else got a number 8 on the back and on the sheet as we write it down, it doesn't mean that Morgan Gibbs-White is stuck as the forward player and let's say Anderson is stuck as a number 8 behind him or bombing up and down. They can interchange. It depends on how you're playing at the time. The other thing is that we are playing against a possession side on Saturday, so that'll be quite interesting because although they're a possession side, they obviously haven't got the quality of player. Well, I assume they've not got the quality of player as Man City and Arsenal, etc., have got. So you'd hope that they're going to make mistakes, and you've got to be ready to pounce on those mistakes. So obviously, you need pace and creativity to be able to capitalize on that. That's where I'm looking at. I mean, I don't have a massive problem with Rob's team. I mean, if Boly, for example, is in the team on Saturday, I won't be losing my head, you know.
No.
But I would prefer Milenkovic because I think Milenkovic is a better quality, more technical and quicker player. But that doesn't mean, this is where people misunderstand a lot of what people on YouTube say. That doesn't mean we're saying that Boly's shit. We're just saying, I'm saying that I prefer Milenkovic in that space than Boly. But that doesn't mean I'd be upset if Boly's there. So I'm quite happy with that. Nico Williams on the right. I don't think that we've got much of a choice if Aina's injured. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I like Nico Williams anyway. You know, I like him. I don't have a big problem with him. So his team, that's okay, but it doesn't excite me.
Okay. Let's ask the chat now. Rob, you had 45% of the vote agreeing with you. So let's put the question to the chat. Whose team did you like the best? Was it Lemmy's team? Was it Ant's team? Was it Rob's team? Or did you have one of your own and you don't like any of them? Get your votes in there. And we're going to ask the important question now. So Southampton coming up, boys. We got the preview with the legend, sorry, Mike, tomorrow. He's confident. I'll give you a slight spoiler alert. But how do you guys see this game going? What are your predictions? Kick us off, Rob.
I've got the feeling that we're going to score first. After that, I don't know. I think it could end in a draw. I think the game will have a lot of goals. I think a draw is a result that Southampton would take as well. I don't think they want to lose their first game back at home. So it's the result that pleases no one but upsets no one, you know. So I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw is what I think.
Okay.
But we will score first.
Let me go on.
I disagree with that. I think, especially seeing how Southampton tried to basically dominate, and I don't want to swear, but S-House, like Newcastle at St. James's Park, and were unable to score against them for the best part of like 60, 70 minutes. I'd like to think we've got an opportunity here to win 2-0. I don't often predict that we're going to be able to hold a clean sheet, but if we are going to be able to hold a clean sheet, I think it is against an attack that Southampton have. They just look toothless. I'd like to think we've got a 2-0 here easy.
Especially if we go your team, yeah?
Yeah. My team, we get one goal in the first 10 minutes. We then sit back, let them try and counter against Brereton Diaz. He then tries to headbutt Matt Sells. Matt Sells just says none of it. And then we score a second goal, and then they realise they're just beat.
Right. What's that mean, though? I might get a bet on that. And what are you saying, mate? So we got a draw from Rob, 2-0 win from Lemmy. Where are you? With your confidence being less after the Bournemouth game, let's not forget.
Well, yeah. Sadly, I'm totally unqualified for this prediction because I've just not seen Southampton play at all last season or the one game they've played this season. So really, I shouldn't be really making any predictions, but I will because you'll force me. Yeah. Sadly, that second half is fresh in my mind. So something needs to change away from home. Hasn't changed at home. Still letting goals in the last few minutes. He won't play my team. So obviously, if he played my team, then obviously we'd win probably 3-0. Probably 3-0 if he played my team. But he won't be. In fact, Yates might start. So, you know. We have an awful record away from home, as we know. We don't score many goals, as we know, away from home particularly. So I can't go too confidently. So I'm going to go for the result that people go for when they haven't really got a clue. And that, Rob, is 1-1.
Are you saying I haven't got a clue?
Was that a little dig? Was that a little dig? A late little gore
That was a very long way of just saying I agree with Rob.
Okay, so those are their predictions. Your predictions are looking interesting in the chat as well. In terms of the teams, this is the clearest one by a mile. 2 people in joint last place. Don't like any of them with 11%, and Rob with 11% of the vote. In second place with 26% of the vote is Ant. And with a whopping 51% of the vote, with a formation risky change, Lemmy takes the gold medal. Well, the Olympics are over, but whatever. With 51% of the vote. So you guys liked what you saw with Lemmy's team. So that brings us to a close for the second episode of the Forest Forum. If you're like Ant and you haven't seen much of Southampton over last season and the start of this season, make sure you check out the preview we've got with the legend. Sorry, Mike. That'll be out tomorrow morning for you guys. Tomorrow's Friday, isn't it? Make sure you get your predictions in if you're in the Predictor League. That's also available on Instagram. So make sure you're following us on @officialFFTV on either Instagram or on Twitter. There's 1,117 of you in here tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the format. Give us your feedback down below. Is there anything you want changed? Are you quite happy with it? Or, you know, were you shocked that Ant only swore 3 times? Rob swore twice and Lemmy didn't swear at all. Well done, Lemmy. So let us know your thoughts on that. And we'll be back with Sorry Mike tomorrow morning for you guys. Please do hit that like button. There's 237 likes. Should be on at least 300. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, you Reds.
You Reds.